Spurs have done it again. They have beaten Manchester City in the Premier League, this time beating them by 2-0. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down how they did it. We're going to be taking a look at the tactics involved that helped Tottenham exploit a key Man City defensive protocol, and how Tottenham's defensive aggression helped them beat Manchester City yet again. One of the best things that Thomas Frank has brought to this Tottenham Hotspur squad in such a short period of time is the idea of tactical variance. The idea of utilising different tactical game plans depending on the situation and the opponent, allowing for Tottenham to have different avenues of play and different ways of scoring goals. So when Manchester City pose a different threat like this one, utilising a high man-mark system to really pen Tottenham into their area and preventing the progression through the likes of Palhinha and Bentancur, Tottenham need a different avenue. Man City really did compound this though. Understanding that Tottenham would want to go long, they had a counter to this, and it's a counter that City have really been working on for quite some time. The idea of squeezing the pitch, utilising these four players right here, their back line to really push super high once you have that aggression from those forward-thinking players. The idea behind this is to create an offside trap, playing almost on the halfway line and really isolating the space in behind, preventing those kind of runs breaching that City defensive line. Tottenham had something of a game plan for this though. Thomas Frank utilised some really good movement and really good assets in the likes of Pat Matasar, in the likes of Richarlison, and the way they would utilise build-up on one or two different sides of the pitch. This time it was on the right-hand side, utilising the likes of Porro, Sarr running in beyond, and creating and causing havoc using flick-ons. In this particular example, you had Kudus dropping a little bit deeper, Sarr creating a really good flick-on, and then Richarlison beating that real offside trap. It was through this that Tottenham managed to get a couple of different instances where they would get behind that City line. It was then down to the pace and power of both Richarlison and Brennan Johnson to really utilise those counter-attacking effects. And then once they managed to get themselves into those areas, it was about creating and converting those chances. It was through this that Tottenham managed to exploit Manchester City's defensive protocols and almost turn everything on its head. Here we can see City utilising a really good high man-marking aggression to pen Tottenham into that corner. So you've got Reinders onto Palhinha, you've got Shirky onto Bentancur, Haaland is marking the likes of Romero, and you've also got Marmoush pinning himself onto Pedro Porro. But what you need in this instant, as we've already mentioned, is the idea of runners off the ball. This allows Tottenham to spin this Manchester City line, but City, as we know, would have been aware of this. And in this particular state, what you've got is Pat Matasar going up for a header because Kudus has dropped. This drags away yet another centre-back and creates a load of space in beyond. But notice this particular moment right here. We're going to take a look at John Stones because he's marking Richarlison. Instead of following the run of Richarlison, John Stones sees all of this play out. He sees Pat Matasar win this header, but instead of following the run and utilising his defensive aggression to prevent Richarlison from getting to the ball, he instead tries to play offside. It backfires on him because it slips over, but at the same time, it's also allowing Richarlison in. Because of his ideal of playing offside, it gives Richarlison the opportunity to take that space. And in taking that space, you're really taking a risk because you're asking for the offside trap for number one to work for you, but at the same time you're also giving the opponents a really good opportunity. We mentioned the likes of Brennan Johnson supporting these attacks, and this is what Thomas Frank does so well. He brings the other attackers into play, gets them towards the penalty area. Time after time again this happened for Brentford, and in this particular scenario we have to credit Richarlison because he did a fantastic job of looking across the line, finding his teammate and playing a good pass in. Although it's just a bit behind Johnson, he converts it pretty brilliantly, but this was a key textbook way that Tottenham managed to exploit that Manchester City defensive protocol. It really was brilliant. Attacking is all well and good, but against a side like Manchester City, a side that is generally going to dominate possession, you need a bedrock, you need a foundation, and that foundation was Tottenham's defensive actions. What they intended to do was really create a high momentum, high pressing action and high pressing motion, and this was to be devised by utilising those midfield players in the likes of Pat Matasar, Palhinha and Bentancur to press onto Manchester City's midfield three. In pressing, utilising Palhinha and Bentancur, you're moving them onto the likes of Reinders and Shirky. This, in theory, would prevent the progression through the centre for Manchester City, but we know that they also have really good rotation, which is why the key battle in this scenario was actually utilising Pat Matsar onto Nico Gonzalez. If you prevent the progression through the centre of the pitch, through this centre pivot, although Manchester City can utilise their fullbacks and their centre-backs to really create that progression, you're really stifling City in this particular action, and Pat Matsar was an absolute sensation at this. It really prevented City from being able to build forwards and really being able to orchestrate attacks. Now, although they got through this on occasion, it was Tottenham's defensive aggression that really laid the foundation for a fantastic defensive display. City attempted to combat this by looking to go long, looking for the likes of Erling Haaland, looking for the likes of Marmoush, who would run in beyond. But even in those particular scenarios, what you actually found was that even if the City went long, you found the likes of Romero or even Van de Ven being super aggressive, following them into different occasions and preventing that real build-up of play. It was really the foundation for Tottenham's victory here. It was brilliant. And it was the defensive aggression and those high-quality pressing actions that led to Tottenham's second goal, as well as a lapse of judgment from a Manchester City point of view. But before we actually break down how this played out, there are a couple of things we do need to notice. The first of all being how comfortable Manchester City were with really encouraging that Tottenham press and Tottenham aggression to a point where I think it got a little bit too comfortable. It got a little bit problematic, and in this particular scenario, it really does highlight those problems. James Trafford receives the ball back from a centre-back pass, and in this particular motion, what you need to do is either play it across or play it out. In my particular favour, I would have played it out, especially when you're considering how aggressive this Tottenham press is. You've got Brennan Johnson, you've got Richarlison. In this particular scenario, Nico Gonzalez attempts to show for the ball, and that is a major problem. We highlighted Pat Matsar a little bit earlier, and the job that he managed to do with his energy, with his tenacity, and his real high-quality pressing. In this particular scenario, James Trafford tries to play into him and Pat Matsar jumps. It's a fantastic piece of aggression and one that really does turn over the ball within the Manchester City half. It's then from this moment Richarlison manages to get to the ball first. He spins, he swivels, and he attempts to get a shot off, but James Trafford smothers the effort. In smothering the effort, though, the ball becomes loose. It ricochets and rebounds and falls to another Tottenham player in João Palhinha, who, again, with that Tottenham high press, we know how deep he was earlier. With that Tottenham high press, they managed to move forwards. Look how high Mickey van de Ven is here as well. It's absolutely fantastic. They do a brilliant job, and it was through this that they managed to convert yet another opportunity, putting themselves 2-0 up. They thoroughly deserve it. It was a brilliant defensive display. It was a great offensive display, and frankly, a Thomas Frank masterclass. It was absolutely sensational. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. What did you make of the game? How did you think it played out? And what do you make of Tottenham so far in this early part of the season? As I said, I'd love to hear from you, so please do get involved. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.